This woman is maybe the most intriguing character in Revenge. Definitely of season 1. I love that Emily's arch-enemy is as complex as her. Like Emily herself, we get obsessed with this woman who does everything to survive. And it is good that they withstand, at least with one Grayson, the temptation to be content, giving us just a stereotyped bad person who enjoys having power over the life of other people. While Conrad does everything he pleases and often looks like a two-dimensional villain with no real sympathy or compassion for others. In fact, like a real psychopath with no remorse. Victoria does everything bad in her life for a reason. Or at least tells herself this to excuse all her terrible deeds. She is not driven by greed or lust for power. She wants to protect her family. That is what she always says. In fact, I think she has the same trauma Emily and Aidan had to endure as children. She was abandoned and has the fear to be left alone by everyone she loves. Therefore she holds on to David after she betrayed him. So let us start with her complex backstory. The most baggage Victoria, like almost everyone in Revenge, takes with her are the wounds of her childhood. Her mother Marion Harper was clearly over-challenged to raise a child on her own. But Victoria's father left them either before Victoria was born or several years later. Anyway, it seems as if her mother has problems of her own and cannot maintain a relationship with any man for long. She also seems to attract the wrong kind of men. 'Cause when Victoria is grown up to a beautiful teenager, Marion's men are more interested in her daughter.
You sure are a pretty little thing, Vicky. A little glimpse of what your mama must have looked like when she was around your age. What are you now, 20? 25?
15.
But instead of protecting her daughter and reacting like any good mother would do, she is using her little daughter to keep the men stay at her side. She even looks the other way when they take advantage of the unprotected girl. And at least one man seems to have sexually abused Victoria.
And instead, when I was released to you, I found that lecherous man in our home waiting for me. That lecherous man that you seduced into your bed.
To make the trauma even worse, Victoria has to witness how her mother kills one of her paramours. This must have left behind a big influence on young Victoria. Not only psychological damage, also the conclusion that you can get away with everything, even with murder, if your story is good enough. What happens next is still open to speculation. 'Cause we only get to know from Victoria herself.
Take the gun. We'll tell the police that he attacked us, that you shot him to protect me. No jury will ever convict you. You'll be hailed as a hero. My God, Victoria, if you don't do this, they will take me away from you forever. You will be all alone.
And she was right. The grand jury failed to indict me. The judge sentenced me to a 6-month inpatient psychiatric evaluation. By the time I was returned to her, she had already met Maxwell. And then one night, she saw him sneak into my room. And the next morning, she threw me to the curb. You threw me out on the street. I was a child. I was 15.
I should have listened to your deadbeat father. Gotten rid of you before you were even born.
And she is no impartial or even trustworthy source. She tells Patrick, her firstborn son, that he was the result of a rape. After she left her home, she got to know a young man, Jimmy Brennan. Of course, he tells us that it was consensual and that Victoria even wanted him to sleep with her. In retrospect, both could be true. The traumatized girl who was just thrown out by her mother searched for someone who could protect her and whom she could trust. Yet she is again deceived, cause she only finds a new predator who sees just the perfect victim in her. Or she did the only thing she learned from her mother, using her body and attraction to men to get what she wants. Anyway, the result is the same. Victoria becomes a penniless and deserted teenage mom. It speaks for her selfish character, who puts only her needs first, that she abandons her little child to take a chance at a new life.
I got the scholarship.
2 years at l'École des Beaux-Arts, all expenses paid.
So she goes to Paris without her son. It must have been the time she met Pascal, her first real boyfriend, who again disappointed her by cheating with other girls while she went back to the States. They seem to establish a pattern for her falling for the wrong men like her mother. But instead of pedophiles, it is power and a far more dangerous and bad side that attracts Victoria in men. Her next boyfriend is the art forger Dominic Wright, an ambitious petty criminal. She and Dominic get to know Conrad Grayson, the most powerful and rich man Victoria met so far. While Dominic just uses Victoria to make him buy his forged art. She sets her sights on a new target. Obviously, Victoria is using men to climb the social ladder and get in a position of power herself. She wants to be independent, yet always makes herself dependent of her men. The only problem with Conrad, he is already married. But as ruthless as Victoria has become, yet she does everything to please Conrad and make him leave his first wife Stevie Grayson.
I know, because I dismantled Conrad's first wife in a similar manner.
Especially since the last time we spoke, you were on my husband's arm. Though I guess you're still trying to take what I already have.
I assume it was not that hard, since Stevie tells Jack in season 3 that she was an alcoholic before the divorce.
I wanted to make it work with you, but I'd been away for a year. Victoria had stolen you.
Maybe she saw Conrad's bad character and felt trapped in that marriage. 'Cause Conrad seems not to have abused her like he did with Victoria. Back to Victoria Harper, who now becomes the Queen of the Hamptons as Victoria Grayson. In the flashbacks with David, it seems even though she has reached everything she wanted for her life, a family with Conrad and their son Daniel, and status as wife of one of the most rich and powerful men in the States, she is still lacking something. Maybe she was just searching for something new and got bored with Conrad. Anyway, she fell in love with David Clarke, an employer of Grayson Global. They had an affair and she got pregnant. They planned to run away together with their kids.
I've sent Daniel to his grandmother's for the weekend so I can finally put an end to it.
This is really happening then?
Yes. David, I love you.
I love you too.
But before she could finally decide, Conrad tells her about the downing of Flight 197 and his involvement.
I made a terrible mistake. You know the plane that went down, Flight 197? I'm responsible.
What on earth are you talking about?
The group that claimed responsibility for the bombing, I was laundering money for them.
Conrad.
Now Victoria had the opportunity to do the right thing. She could have told the police and get rid of Conrad the easy way. Then she could have started a new life with David. But instead of doing the reasonable and right thing, she decided to help Conrad and put the blame on David.
Are you okay?
Of course not. What we did was despicable.
But necessary, you know that.
So she could save her family, but sealed David and Amanda Clarke's fate.
We're gonna lose everything. This house, Daniel, I mean everything.
I still cannot decide why she did this big mistake.
The feds are coming for David tomorrow night. What's done is done. Now you made your decision, Victoria. The sooner you start living with it, the better.
In season 4, she tries to explain it with fear and mistrust against David, who lied about the death of his first wife Cara. But considering what Conrad withheld from her and her relationship with the truth, this seems like a great overreaction over just a simple lie. She could have asked David about it and they could have talked it through. I am sure the writers just did not know themselves how to explain why Victoria chose Conrad, a man who obviously did not treat her well and was a psychopath, over David, who seemed kind and caring. Maybe like Emily, she saw that she did not deserve such a kind man, and therefore punished herself. Which brings us to the most interesting chapter of Victoria's character study, her personal character and traits. Like Amanda and Emily, there is a great difference between young and adult Victoria. In the flashbacks, she looks very much needy and desperate, like you would expect any pregnant teenage girl to be. So I think that Victoria developed her more disturbing and dangerous character traits during her time in France than when she came back to the States. She obviously is not shy of lying when it suits her goals. To get her scholarship, she lies that she is just the babysitter of her son Patrick. Not to forget that she lied to protect her mother when she killed that man. In her relationship with art forger Dominic Wright, she lied to her customers. And as she began to pursue Conrad, she surely lied to her boyfriend Dominic. Maybe even was unfaithful to him. So it's safe to say that we have a pattern here. Victoria is deceitful and can keep secrets. Mostly she had done this for other people like her family and the ones she loves. But Victoria is also very egoistic and does everything for her ambition and to please her needs. She goes after powerful men to become more powerful herself. I guess she shares that ambitious and in some kind greedy character with Ashley.
I used to do the very same thing. Plan out my path, identify the obstacles, visualize the next 6 months, 1 year, 5 years. As a result, all those thoughts became this.
However, it seems she is not that much after money. Maybe that was her initial impetus. But since she has no money issues at all as Conrad's wife, her goals have shifted into using her power over people. In the pilot, when she punishes her best friend Lydia for sleeping with her husband, we see how Victoria enjoys inflicting pain and humiliate people in public.
Lydia has asked me to announce that the beach house she shared with her husband is officially on the market.
I'm afraid this will be her final weekend in the Hamptons.
Wherever you end up, I hope that the VanGamp is a constant reminder of the friendship we shared.
It gives her a great satisfaction to taunt with the people that are depending on her.
I am so happy that we're friends again.
Understand something, Lydia. Every time I smile at you across the room, or we run into each other at luncheon, or I welcome you into my home, let that smile be a reminder of just how much I despise you. And that every time I hug you, the warmth you feel is my hatred burning through. Goodbye, Lydia. My husband's waiting for me.
What I still cannot decide is if she is really capable of loving anybody as much as she is loving herself. She says often she is doing everything for her children and want to protect them. Yet after all those years she must have recognized that everything she does is hurting her children. But we will talk more about her children when we talk about Victoria's relationships. Interesting is the contrast between her narcissistic survival instinct and her self-loathing. In her final conversation with Emily in Season 4 and when Jack threatens to shot her in Season 2, Victoria shows some serious suicidal tendencies.
Do it. Pull the trigger. I deserve it. I died long before you were born. This is just a formality.
And she surely has some sadomasochistic streaks like Conrad points out in Season 1.
If I'd known you were such a masochist, I'd have volunteered to rub this salt in your wounds myself.
In the end she maybe knows in her heart that she deserves that all the pain she inflicted on other people comes back at her. In contrast to her sayings, she looks not like the typical caring and loving mother. She slaps Daniel and Charlotte in Season 1 without apologizing to them. Mutual times she is fighting with both of them about their partners, and especially with Daniel tries everything to destroy his relationships.
As charming as you find that boy, he's not the young man for you.
Yeah, because you're such an expert in the subject.
With Emily Thorne?
You got a problem with her too?
The only thing we know for sure is that you're a bad judge of women.
No one's ever gonna be good enough for you, are they?
Nonsense. I want you to be happy.
Well, like you and Dad.
It's for your own protection.
It seems as if she is as much obsessed with their love life as her mother was, with alleging her daughter to be behind every failed relationship of her. Though I am not buying that her son Daniel was Victoria's main focus to stay with Conrad and choose him over David. I believe that she is only trying to protect him when she goes after Emily.
May I ask you, what is it about me that troubles you so much?
Call it maternal instinct. Don't hurt my son, Emily. You'll live to regret it if you do.
I can see that in Season 2 she is genuinely afraid something could happen to Daniel.
You led me to believe that Daniel was in danger all summer. I committed murder to protect him!
So shooting Helen Crowley may have been a trigger for bad memories around her mother's killing. Again they missed to place a flashback here that would give us more insight on Victoria's state of mind.
She said she was going to kill you. You're safe now. She's not going to harm you any longer.
The only thing that really speaks for Victoria is that Conrad has become very good in manipulating her. We have seen in that flashback episode in Season 2 that he is one of the few people who know what Victoria had to endure from her mother, and now that he also knows that she was raped and had a child before their marriage, he has much more insights to her traumatic past and fragile state of mind.
It's the worst time of my life. I try to keep the ghosts out. They always force their way back in.
In their fights we see not only that he knows best how to hurt her.
I remember the way you used to look at David Clarke. You have never not once looked at me like that. Not before, and certainly not after.
You have never given me reason to!
Well, perhaps I should count myself as lucky. I mean, look what happened to him.
You haven't been truly invested in our family, this marriage, since David Clarke. So why don't you think about it this way? You see, by turning myself in, I'm not only clearing his name for Charlotte, but for you as well, my dear. So that you can finally have your true love back. Dead as he may be.
Oh, you son of a bitch!
He also knows what buttons he has to push to make her do and say things he wants her to.
No. David Clarke has to be completely dead to you, or the jury will see right through you.
Victoria, we're gonna lose everything. This house, Daniel, I mean everything.
So in a way she is trapped in this marriage and chained to this sociopath.
We're drowning in lies, all of us. The wreckage from this arrangement.
For me, her most relevant character trait in Season 1 is regret. She regrets not only framing David, but also marrying Conrad and staying by his side all this time. I hate that they made her team up with him again in Season 2. Another inconsistency. In Season 1 Victoria had far more shades and nuances and was not only bad. In Season 2 and especially in the last 2 seasons she not only became the main villain, they also made her less sympathetic. In great contrast to that, I even loved her at the end of season 1 when she had that determination to take Conrad down.
Now I am begging you as your son, please drop this whole thing. Tell McGowan you won't testify.
I can't do that. I've done some heinous things in my life, but now I have the chance to right a terrible wrong. And nothing and nobody, not even you, my darling son, will stand in my way.
How poetic if she would have been the one to bring him in jail. She definitely would not have made everything right, but it could have been a start. I know we love to hate her, but would it not have been cool seeing her team up with Emily to take down Conrad? Emily would have surely taken that opportunity. And of course screw her over to come after her next. Especially after knowing Conrad ordered to kill David Clarke, it is out of question that she would be happy again with Conrad. So I cannot understand why they made up this story arc with them remarrying and working together against the Initiative.
I will be damned if I let those people write the final word on us.
Don't tell me you're planning to go toe-to-toe with the Initiative.
Why not? I say we drag them to hell with us.
Season 1 with Victoria and Conrad struggling with their demons from the past was much more entertaining.
I didn't want our history clouding the room. No matter how much we try to escape our past, we seem destined to repeat it.
Her conflicting feelings for both men Conrad and David showed much more psychological insights than her need to torture Conrad in season 2 and 3.
What the hell was that for?
Take your pick. Why do we have to do that?
We're still in love with him.
She also shows more doubts in the first season. Not only about the deeds in the past, but also about how she is treating her children. Especially Charlotte, with whom she has the most conflicting and complicated relationship.
We used to spend so much time together when Daniel was away at Harvard. What happened?
The prodigal son returned.
I am trying, Charlotte. I am.
In total contrast to the other 3 seasons. In season 2 and 3 she never shows us any doubts that she knows what is the best for her family.
To my abductor, and to anyone who thinks they can harm this family again, make no mistake, you will fail.
And her war with Emily escalates that much in season 4 that it leaves not much doubt or reflection on Victoria's side. But what is very much different from Conrad, who knows and seems to revel in his wrongdoings.
I have the power to take you out anytime I want! I had the reach to snuff out your nuisance of a sister. I was in league with a confederacy of global terrorists who tried to bring me down, but I'm still here. And your father, he was my patsy to freedom. I'm the last man standing for a reason. And if you even think about crossing me, I will erase you as I have so many others.
Victoria sees herself always as a victim. First she was a victim of her mother. Then a rape victim. After that a victim of the bad influence of her boyfriend and art forger Dominic Wright. Until she became a victim of Conrad and his despicable deeds. And in the end she is a victim of Emily Thorne and her vendetta against the Grayson family. By the way, I love this little side plot of her despising Tom Kingsley. One of Emily's first targets.
Just curious as to why you're angrier today than you were yesterday.
Because yesterday I didn't have a house full of unwanted guests.
Fine, you don't like Tom's politics.
Oh, I couldn't care less about his politics. It's him I don't like.
Well, he's done more for us than we'll ever be able to do for him.
How could I ever forget?
Obviously because he was the one who could have helped David. Since Victoria gave the man who was in charge of David's case the information that he would be responsible for the conviction of an innocent man.
David Clarke is innocent and I can prove it. Tell the judge and have him call back the jury.
And now you're telling me you committed perjury? What the hell is going on here?
And in that flashback episode she is not content with all of the conspirators staying at Grayson Manor. While Conrad has throughout the show no problem keeping in contact with his conspirators. Until the end she does neither accept her responsibility nor her inactivity all those years after the conspiracy.
You blame me. Your father's business practices forced me to make a despicable choice. It was either my lover's life or my son, and I sacrificed David and chose you.
I mean, she had more than 20 years to come clean and spill the truth about Conrad's deeds. She could have left him and gone to the authorities like she tried at the end of season 1. Still her best decision in my opinion. 'Cause Conrad has more than just a bad influence on her. He keeps luring out the most bad impulses and feelings in her. Which brings us to Victoria's relationships. Like Emily, she has ties to almost everyone on the show. So this will be a long list. Let us begin with her family, but not with her husband Conrad Grayson. 'Cause like any mother, Marion Harper had the biggest influence on Victoria. At the end of season 4 they seem to make her responsible for creating a monster in Victoria. Yet that would be far too easy. And since we see this flashback again out of Victoria's perspective, we have to be careful what we believe. Because I think Victoria had become a master in putting the blame and making other people responsible for the things she did wrong in her life. But she also had a bad role model in her mother. Or the best if you want. 'Cause Marion Harper looks to me like a real bad mother. Victoria does everything to please her and get her appreciation and love.
I loved you, Mother. So much that I took the fall for the murder that you committed, hoping that one day you would love me back.
And instead of being at least thankful, she throws her daughter out on the street. So it is no wonder that a grown-up Victoria has issues with trusting people. And like Amanda with her multiple traumata, always expects the worst of people. Now to her romantic relationships. The first man who misused her, if you do not count her stepfather the sexual molester in, was Patrick's biological father, Jimmy Brennan. I mean, if it is right what she told us about Jimmy, that he raped her.
What did Jimmy Brennan do to you?
Jimmy was like a big brother, a few years older than I, and he always watched over me. He kisses me, and I say, no, we're just friends. And I try to pull away, and he has this look on his face like a monster. I knew he could still see the victim.
Again, young Vicky met a man who was a predator and used her for his own satisfaction. So her hate for men in general must be great. Like her insecurity and mistrust of people that always seem to want to harm her. But I still have a problem with her story. I get that a rapist would never say yes, I raped her, and I do not regret it. Such men always say it was consensual. What else should they do? I mean, no sane man wants to be a rapist.
He started stalking me, so we ran from apartment to apartment until there was nowhere else to go.
However, would a rapist search for his child? I mean, why did he even bother? Okay, in these conversations with Patrick we have the classical problem, he said, she said.
Back in the day when I lived in the Bronx, I found out I had another one.
Wanted to be with his mother. She basically hid the pregnancy from me. She about killed me when I saw her pushing that stroller down Lexington. Hey, how would you feel if you suddenly realized that there's this part of you out there somewhere that you never got to know? It's a damn shame.
But think about it. He was so persistent, and she even had to run from him for months. Either he was obsessed with her, which does not really add up with her rape story. 'Cause most rapists do not stalk their victims afterwards. Or he really wanted to have a relationship at least with his son. I mean, the age gap between him and Vicky must have been not that big. Patrick must have been his first son, too. So how could he have been this monster that raped her but also had an interest in their child?
Your dear mom ever mentioned to you how she used me back then?
I was 15 years old and I was looking for someone to trust, and you preyed on that. You raped me.
You knocked on my door that night. We had a drink. We hung out. You said you were feeling adventurous, that you wanted me down in that basement.
You bastard!
Maybe she is making this up to hide the truth that she did not want a relationship, or maybe even could not cope with having a boyfriend back then. I mean, her sexual assault by her stepfather was not so long ago, and it maybe was her first sexual experience. So she was still going through this trauma. Which could have been unconsciously a reason for her wanting this shoalship so bad. So she could flee all these bad experiences and forget about her traumatizing past. Have a fresh start in France. No surprise that she stays not long alone in Paris. Yet her relationship with young Pascal seems to have been pretty normal. Considering her all those traumatic experiences, this is kind of surprising. Even more surprising that they obviously had a long-distance relationship, with her being back in the States after her scholarship did end. And him still living in Paris. I wonder if he was the only one cheating. Because in season 1 they told us she met Conrad when she sold him one of her boyfriend Dominic Wright's forged paintings. Yet in season 3 Pascal tells us he introduced Conrad to Victoria. Either this was again just a continuity mistake by the writers, or Pascal's memory is false. Maybe she already set her sights on Conrad and Pascal did not know it. Or he is right and Victoria later remembered Conrad and told her new boyfriend Dominic about him. Or Victoria was cheating on Pascal as well and was already involved with Dominic. I realize this could be real good fan fiction stuff. Anyway, art forger Dominic Wright was surely not more of a better man than Pascal or Conrad. And I am beginning to see a pattern here. Of course, all three men do love Victoria in their own twisted ways. I think they may be all are falling not only for her beautiful face but for her needy character, too. In one thing Victoria is right about Jimmy. He saw a victim in her, and I think that is what all three men, maybe even David, attracted to Victoria. She has some kind of a beautiful sadness around her. Like an aura or something. And they all have some kind of shady and criminal background. Pascal and Conrad with their not at all innocent business practices. Dominic is a common fraud with his art forgery scheme. Though it could be that Victoria may have a bad influence on them. After all, it could have been Victoria's idea to sell not Dominic's original art to paying customers but his forged paintings. And I guess it was Victoria's idea that she and David should steal money from her husband to finance their future together. Yes, both men could have said no and break up with her. But the same goes for her if she did not want to have a criminal career. By the way, a real devious move to make the story of David Clarke's downfall even more convincing. If he stole money from his boss, he could have also be responsible for even worse crimes. Now to her longest relationship. The next man in her life, making her miserable and deceiving her in every way as possible, is her husband Conrad. Though we see them not happy beside some family photos and reminiscing old times when Daniel was born in season 3. We just see them fighting and at their worst. Their marriage seems to be a facade for decades now. Not only because of the David Clarke trial. It fell apart before, cause in flashbacks we see both Graysons stray away from their partners. Conrad with his secretary Lydia Davis. By the way, we learn in season 4 that in bold old stereotyped fashion Lydia was not the only one.
To Bunny, eternally yours, Conrad. I had a secretary once who had the exact same watch. You aren't the first girl that he seduced with his estate.
And Victoria with David. So only Daniel and keeping up appearances seems to be the reason for Victoria to stay on Conrad's side after the trial. While he seems to love her in a weird sadistic way. In his love, Conrad seems to be like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Time and time again he is declaring his love for Victoria.
This has always been one of my favorite sights. You, the sunset. I love you, I always have.
But he also is the one who hurts her relentlessly with emotional torture.
Why don't you go and ask your artist friend? Not that I expect you'll find him. I mean, once a fraud, always a fraud. Isn't it right, Victoria?
Stay away from him!
No problem there. He's long gone by now. Bastard. Oh, come on. Where's the witty repartee?
If you're expecting me to reveal so much as a wince of pain at the hands of your emotional torture, you can forget it.
Color me disappointed.
And I guarantee that you'll not just regret each and every one of your petty little torments, but that the suffering you so glibly spread around will come back at you tenfold.
So in my opinion, the only true sociopath in Revenge is Conrad Grayson. And Victoria has the bad luck noticing it only when it was too late.
Oh, the hellcat I married rears her day class A head. Oh, you be sure to leave her at home when you join me on stage tonight.
Do you expect me to thank you?
No, I expect you to perform the role of devoted wife like you never have before. You failed to do so and prepare to return to the penniless squalor from whence I plucked you.
And that is why I cannot understand her development in season 2.
I don't know who to turn to.
You could turn to me, of course.
Oh, please.
Victoria Grayson, will you do me the honor of becoming my wife again?
What is the matter with you?
Just let me finish. To have and to hold and to be legally bound so that we may never be compelled to testify against each other in a court of law.
It seems as if she is going back and does not know what she has discovered the season before. Her relationship with Conrad took a classical downward spiral. First just being angry with him because she found out about his affair.
I want to make this right.
Then you never should have slept with my best friend.
Him trying to make it right again and she taunting him a bit.
Well, at least tell me you're going to think about it.
Until she went back to normal, playing his doting wife. Keeping his secrets and skeletons hidden, of course.
You really do want this?
Oh, second only to how much I've always wanted you.
Well, you can only have one of those. Never fear, Conrad. I'll assist you in your rise to power.
Then Victoria finds out that her husband had David Clarke killed. And that changes everything for her. Now she is determined to make it right and deliver Conrad to the feds. Even risking to lose her son in this process.
But you would do well to remember that there are 3 sides to every story.
Which one did you sell to the feds? You go through with destroying Dad, and you're dead to me.
The only thing I really liked about the initiative was the connection to the white-haired man and her role as this lurking threat in the dark. Because with this Conrad found a nice way to manipulate her. Instead of this twist by the end of season 2, they should have made this the story for the initiative. How Conrad uses this organization for his own personal gain and to keep Victoria and Daniel under his control. However, it does not make sense for me why she is not seeing through his manipulative ways. Even more as she had called him out on similar things several times before. Maybe he found the right angle with threatening their son. I mean, it worked 20 years before when he convinced her to frame David for Daniel's sake as well. 'Cause Daniel is the most important man in Victoria's life. Strange that her feelings for Daniel are so clear, although she knows all the time that Daniel is Conrad's only child. Just because Charlotte is her and David's daughter, she should hold her daughter dearest, as the only connection that is left to her beloved David.
You think about him every time you look at me?
There are so many things about you that remind me of him. Your eyes, your laugh.
Do you love me? Even though every time you look at me, you think of him.
Charlotte, don't you get it? It's because of that I love you all the more.
Maybe she hates Charlotte that much because the sole fact of her existence is a constant reminder of the life and love she has lost by choosing Conrad over David. Yet Victoria always favors her son Daniel. Her most important goal and impetus is to protect Daniel, whether it is before real threats from outside.
You're safe now. She's not going to harm you any longer.
Or imaginary threats like his girlfriends.
The only thing we know for sure is that you're a bad judge of women.
No one's ever going to be good enough for you, are they?
It's for your own protection.
Her intrusion into his life, especially his love life, is surely pathological. Maybe because she knows how love can make you blind and lovers can hurt you to the core. Victoria wants to protect her son from deception and pain.
I just don't want to see you get hurt. Allowing yourself to fall for someone comes at the risk of a painful price.
This might have been her initial impetus, but with Emily Thorne it goes far beyond. Anyway, we will get to their strong hate-hate relationship at the end.
I'm not interested in what she's not. I want to know who she is.
Daniel is truly her golden boy and cannot do anything wrong in Victoria's eyes. Even as he is colluding with Conrad behind her back in season 1, she finds excuses for him and forgives him eventually. Victoria's relationship with Charlotte is far more complicated. Maybe it is mirroring her relationship with her mother Marion, who always saw her as a competitor for the love and attention of her lovers. And in opposition to Daniel, she is Conrad's favorite. So Victoria might unconsciously see her as a competitor as well. Finally, Emily's interference makes it worse after she outs Charlotte as David Clarke's daughter and encourages her to form a friendship with Fauxmanda. Though Charlotte seems to need not much incentive for hating Victoria. Like every teenage girl, she is very much annoyed of her mother and thinks Victoria does everything to make her life miserable.
Exactly how many more times do I have to apologize before you do?
Do me a favor and pretend I wasn't.
As half-hearted as it might be, but till season 3, Victoria seems at least trying to make amends with Charlotte. But like with Daniel, she cannot let go of her manipulative streak and always uses her daughter for her own goals.
For starters, I thought it might be fun if you joined me and the ladies for my weekly luncheon.
You're unbelievable, you know that? The only reason you want to parade me in front of your lady puppets is to prove I've forgiven you.
By the way, I see a pattern here. Whenever Daniel is drifting away from Victoria, she concentrates on the relationship with her daughter. And vice versa. It seems as if Charlotte is just her backup until Daniel comes back.
We used to spend so much time together when Daniel was away at Harvard. What happened?
The prodigal son returned.
But the most despicable was her using the troubled and hurt Charlotte in season 4. Instead of helping the addict and desperate suicidal woman Charlotte has become, Victoria is using her to hurt Emily, keeping her from establishing a real and honest relationship with her father.
I just found out Emily is Amanda and my father is alive.
Exactly, he is alive. And your reaction is to hide behind a haze of pills.
No, my reaction was happiness. But you ruined that and made meeting my father all about hurting Emily.
In a similar fashion, she is treating her firstborn son Patrick after he came back at the end of season 2. The troubled man with disturbing violent tendencies just wants to know its origins. But Victoria tries to bind him with lies and omissions like she did with Charlotte concerning her father David. Like every adoptive child, Patrick Osbourne wants to know who are his parents and how much he resembles them. But Victoria makes a great secret of his father Jimmy Brennan, like her mother did with Victoria's father. Until the big reveal in the show's finale, Victoria actually did not have a clue who her father was.
You owe me the truth. Who was he?
Didn't you recognize him, Victoria? That lecherous man that you seduced into your bed.
Anyway, Patrick is desperately searching for answers and Victoria is just giving him her sob story.
What did Jimmy Brennan do to you?
He kisses me, and I try to pull away. He punches me, and he pushes my face into the cold concrete, and he whispers, "Relax, honey." All I could do, and wait for him to be done.
I tend to think she was lying cause she lied to Daniel in season 1, too, when she had to explain why David was Charlotte's father and not Conrad.
Now, the truth is inevitable, Daniel, and I do want to tell you myself, but I just don't want you to think less of me. It's about your sister. Conrad's not her father.
Who's Charlotte's father?
David Clarke. All I wanted to was to protect Charlotte from the truth. That's all I wanted.
What did he do to you, Mom?
Please, I can't talk about this. I can't.
Oh my God. Oh my God, Mom, come here.
I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry.
God, Mom, I'm so sorry.
Yet her story for Patrick is far more detailed. Maybe because he was so eager for answers that she feared he would not believe her. Or because it was true and Jimmy is lying or remembering things differently. Anyway, if Victoria's influence on Daniel and Charlotte was bad, it is a catastrophe for Patrick. He becomes a murderer for her. He even attempts to kill Conrad.
I read about Jimmy's death. I don't know, should we call it a murder?
They ruled that an accident.
Which is fast becoming a euphemism for Patrick did it. So let me ask you, how many people did you kill before you came to the Hamptons? Because my guess is 0.
So the only wise and healthy decision was to leave his mother behind.
And the problem is, when someone hurts you, I become someone I barely recognize. Someone who will strike out to protect the one person I value most. I feel like if I stay here, others will suffer too. But it means I have to leave. I really hope you understand. Goodbye, Mom. I will always love you.
Like she is treating her children, Victoria does the same with her lovers. Like a sailor, she seems to have a backup for every occasion. Dominic Wright, who comes back in season 1, still cannot let go of her.
You know, a long time ago, I told a vibrant young woman I'd never experienced anything close to the passion I felt when I painted her. And I knew, with absolute clarity, that I was in love with her. And do you know how that person responded?
I told you I didn't think I could fall in love with anyone.
No, I never believed that.
And she uses their rekindled romance as a welcome distraction.
I'm sorry, I have to go.
Don't worry, darling. It's what you do. Hey, Vic, it's me.
Vic,
Yes?
I was wondering if I was ever going to see you again.
But the most important lovers in her life had been with no doubt David Clarke and Pascal LeMarchal. She shares a history with both men. Pascal was her boyfriend when Victoria was in Paris. So he seems to have been her first serious and longer relationship after her first pregnancy. But he was unfaithful while they were separated when she went back to America.
I still remember the night I lost you. I'm sorry. I will never betray you again.
So when he is coming back in season 3, she does not trust him and keeps him at a distance.
Your charms won't work on me, Pascal. Not this time. I cannot be bought, especially by a man whose reputation for romance is reckless.
The result of a lifetime of mistakes.
Keep your distance, Pascal. This dress may touch my body, but you'll never be so lucky.
But not for long.
I know the sting of betrayal all too well, and I'm not one to forgive and forget, but I'm willing to try.
'Cause this opportunity was just too good to let it pass. Pascal can not only help her with Emily.
I'm hunting her.
The only thing Emily wanted to discuss was your family's secrets. For you, I will find out why.
I'm grateful to you, Pascal.
He can also be her partner in making Conrad pay. Pascal seems eager to help her.
Conrad will keep coming at us, unless we stop him.
I know. There is something I could do, but it's not without risk.
He obviously holds a grudge for Conrad cause he married his girl and he was even the one who introduced the two. Their romance seems true through. I doubt that she really loves him that much. In fact, she tells David and Pascal the same thing in almost exact the same words. She only was in love with him and no other man was more precious to her. So she tells every man, including Conrad, what they want to hear from her. Otherwise she fears they would leave. What is strange that Emily and Victoria are acting very much the same concerning David. Victoria is mourning him and their relationship as well as Emily does. In season 1 we see both women watching video footage with David from Mason's interview tapes. So in a way Victoria is missing David like Emily is missing her father. Even though she is the reason that they both lost him.
Twisted way of hanging on to him. That's perverse, don't you think? Destroy a man you love and then weep for him eternally.
It seems as if Victoria sees herself here really as the victim of Conrad, who had David framed and killed. Yet she forgets that it was her idea to use David as the scapegoat. In season 4 she admits that she did it out of fear because David lied to her about his wife Cara being dead.
You ruined my life for money.
No, I was afraid. And that's when I found out the secret you've been hiding about your wife. I waited for you to tell me the truth, but you never did. And in the moment I needed to trust you the most, you made me doubt you, and I hated you for it. Then Conrad told me about the bombing, and Daniel and I were trapped, and I was terrified of losing my son. And in my rage, I used you to get us out of it.
Though I assume this is again just something she makes up as an excuse. Like when she tells Daniel that she had chosen him over her love for David.
Your father's business practices forced me to make a despicable choice. It was either my lover's life or my son, and I sacrificed David and chose you. I will always choose you.
Her relationship with the truth is interesting because after all these lies I think Victoria herself is not sure anymore what the truth is. I like her quote from season 3 when she tells Patrick about the rape.
The truth. I didn't know what to do with it.
In fact, she is telling every man in her life what she thinks they want to hear. Not only to justify her actions and failures, but to make sure they will never leave her alone. Because that is her greatest fear.
Oh, this is what you do. There's always an explanation for how and why you love because you're terrified to be alone.
This surely goes back to her childhood trauma. When she was coming home after her psychological evaluation and her mother threw her out of their home. What is even more strange in season 4 that she constantly tells David how much she loves him. Yet she is keeping him away from the most important person in his life, his daughter Amanda. Just to hurt Emily, she is hurting her paramour even more by letting him visit Amanda's grave even though his daughter is very much alive.
She is manipulating him. God, Charlotte, she took him to what was supposed to be my grave. Do you know how painful that must have been for him?
In fact, she is just using him as a pawn in her war with Emily. In the same fashion as Emily did with her son Daniel.
A fact that everyone seemed to know except for her dear old dad. Now, why'd you think that is?
I have my reasons.
Well, of course, which I imagine have something to do with you waging a campaign to destroy David's opinion of Emily. Look at what you're doing to David. Does he know the truth? Does he have any idea what you did to him? No, of course not. No, because you manipulated him instead.
Which brings us to Victoria's friends and enemies. Her list of true friends is very limited with only one name, Lydia Davis. In the pilot we see them very close. Victoria even comforts Lydia during her divorce.
We were all so sorry to hear about you and Michael this winter. You were one of those couples everyone roots for.
I have no doubt.
How are you holding up?
It's bad enough having some stranger renting it out. I can bear the thought of losing it to one of the she-wolves.
Well, then don't let them see your weakness. The first thing they'll use against you.
And they seem to exchange expensive gifts. Victoria, with her passion for art, got at least one expensive impressionist painting from Lydia.
I've decided to auction off a piece from my personal art collection.
Well, I don't care how good the cause is. If you put up the Van Gogh that Michael and I gave you, I'll kill myself.
The Van Gogh is off limits for sentimental reasons. Please.
Yet this does not restrain Lydia from sleeping with Victoria's husband. It seems to me that Lydia is just staying close to Victoria to keep tabs on Conrad and for the thrill. 'Cause we see her having fun torturing and mocking Victoria as much as Conrad does.
I never knew how uncomfortable this chair was. I'm really gonna enjoy remodeling Grayson Manor. I always thought this room could use a splash of color.
Anyway, even though Lydia seems to love Conrad, she is somehow obsessed with Victoria, too.
I went to see Victoria. It had nothing to do with you.
Nothing to do with me, huh?
I'm trying to repair the damage that my relationship with you caused our friendship. You might want to think about facilitating a detente for the two of us.
Detente. Between my mistress and my wife.
If I'm gonna get my life back, then I need Victoria to accept me.
Yet the two stay connected, and Victoria even saves Lydia from Conrad.
When I was forced to exit that plane, I didn't have to take you with me, Lydia. You owe me your life.
You didn't save me. You got rid of me.
So as hard as it is saying this, Victoria seems to be a better friend to Lydia than Lydia to her.
We used to be such good friends, Lydia. What happened? I am giving you a lifeline. The question is, are you wise enough to accept it?
I learned that lesson already. Fool me twice, shame on me, right?
Well, in this case, the shame is on all of us. After all these years, the government is quietly building a case against Conrad. They're going to be coming after you, too. And I had the good fortune to secure myself immunity in exchange for my cooperation. And as your friend, I've asked them to grant you the same courtesy.
Revenge will mirror this pattern from friend to foe with Louise and Margaux in season 4. The two ladies start as Victoria's friends and turn into enemies. First, Louise Ellis, who sees in Victoria some kind of surrogate mother.
I can't imagine choosing this for your child.
Well, then you're a better mother than mine.
Which shows how crazy she is and what little knowledge of human nature she actually has. Victoria manipulates and uses her as some kind of foot soldier in her vendetta against Emily.
Louise, I know it's difficult for you to believe, and I understand. It's painful when we take the scales from our eyes, but we all have to see.
For a change, Victoria is with her ally Louise, telling a woman what she wants to hear. Now that she has no one left to manipulate than these two women, she is using Louise and Margaux in her last attempt to take Emily down.
Louise, you are a treasure part of my family, but I promise we will be reunited one day. Until then, I need you to keep up this charade. For me.
Of course.
While Margaux LeMarchal possesses a special place in her heart. She is the daughter of Pascal LeMarchal, Victoria's late fiancé, and her tights are even stronger when Margaux is dating Daniel and pregnant with his child. She is the first girlfriend of Daniel who gets Victoria's approval. Maybe because she is giving Victoria her first grandchild. But I think because she is a connection to her love Pascal. 'Cause opposite to everything she is saying David. Victoria is still in love with the French media tycoon and mourns his death. So she stays in contact with the only child of him that is living in the States. After Daniel's death and Margaux lost her child, Victoria does the same she always does. She is using her pain to bind Margaux closer to her and uses her in the war with Emily.
Amanda Clarke is not a killer. Really? She selected my son for sacrifice long before he sacrificed himself. And let's not forget what she did to your father, who died trying to protect us from threats that she made posing as a Homeland Security agent. When the government gets this evidence and puts her behind bars, the story is yours.
It is interesting that crazy Louise recognizes first how much she was manipulated by Victoria.
I didn't think you were here for my darling. You're here for the very same reason that my late brother was, and that is to hurt Nolan with that flash drive.
I am here because I care about you.
Take your things and leave my home right now. I can't believe I almost fell for your sympathy.
You're trusting the wrong people. The people to whom you've pledged your loyalty have two faces, and you've got a good heart. Don't let them break it.
Yet Margaux stays true to Victoria till the end, even when she tells her she wants to kill Emily.
You're the only family I have left thanks to Amanda.
I'm here for you.
Amanda Clarke has dug a grave for me tonight.
But I won't let her put you in it. Victoria, let me help you. Just like you helped me in my times of need.
But before we move on to Victoria's arch-enemy Amanda Clarke, we must talk about the Porters and Fauxmanda. 'Cause with Fauxmanda and Declan Porter, the boyfriend of her daughter Charlotte, they got close ties to Victoria as well. At first the Porters seemed just to annoy Victoria.
The things you'll do to torture me.
Especially Declan, 'cause he set his sights on Charlotte.
How much will it cost to get you to stop seeing my daughter? Everybody's got a price. What's yours?
I care about your daughter a lot more than I care about your money.
And I'm trying to spare Charlotte the inevitable heartache and help you at the same time, but I can't if you won't accept my offer. So what's your number?
Unlike Daniel, who is almost used to his mother meddling into his relationships, Charlotte is very much upset by her mother's attempts to let her break up with Declan.
As charming as you find that boy, he's not the young man for you.
It's my life, not yours.
What is interesting that Victoria soon accepts the young boy as Charlotte's regular boyfriend. Maybe because she knows Charlotte is young and could soon lose interest in the boy. In season 2, Declan becomes a threat again when Daniel tells his mother that Charlotte got pregnant. Now Victoria fears that this boy could become a part of their family and has even more influence on Charlotte as the father of her baby. It speaks for itself that she first thought Daniel's fiancée Emily could be the one who is pregnant. Maybe her greatest fear, and straight confronts him. While Charlotte and a second teenage pregnancy in her family does not even cross her mind. But I think again this shows that Daniel and his happiness and well-being is far more important to her. The most apparent this gets during Daniel's trial. 'Cause she even encourages Charlotte, who just broke up with Declan over his testimony, that she should mend things with him, in order to persuade him, lying at court and making a statement in Daniel's favor.
My mom's convinced that guy on the beach is your brother, and you're protecting him, like I'm protecting my brother. No one's saying Jack did anything, but Daniel could go to prison for life, and it'll be my fault. And if you lie, it'll be your fault too. This is your chance to fix everything, including you and me. Don't you want that? We can be together again. All you have to do is tell the truth.
Declan's brother Jack Porter seems only interesting to her as far as he is useful for Victoria. In season 1, when they are looking desperately for another suspect, he comes in handy.
This looks like Jack Porter.
Especially because of his connection to Fauxmanda, who becomes the main suspect for Victoria long before Conrad was blackmailed by her in season 2.
He didn't kill Tyler. It doesn't make any sense. He was set up.
By whom, for instance?
Jack Porter. He could have orchestrated the whole thing to protect the real killer.
Let me guess. Amanda Clarke? You have really lost it, you know that?
Interesting is that she never showed any regret or compassion for Jack because he lost the love of his life and mother to his child. I mean, he is in a similar situation as Victoria was when she was pregnant with Charlotte. Why cannot she relate to that and feel a little remorse for his loss?
Oh, that would be a victory for your late wife.
There's no victory for Amanda. She's gone, which is why my child's being raised without a mother.
All she does in season 2 is using him again to get rid of Conrad.
Maybe we should keep this in hand. My husband's as diabolical as you seem to think he is.
You betrayed me. You used me.
And in season 3 she tries to use Emily's feelings for Jack to sabotage her relationship with Daniel.
You've just played right into Victoria's hands. Yet she had me follow you. She fed you that information, hoping that you'd run straight to Jack instead of standing by Daniel as you're supposed to.
As for Fauxmanda, it was interesting that right from the start Victoria was suspicious about her and thought she might not be who she claims to be.
The strawberries are picked fresh from my garden this morning. So you're no longer allergic. I remember a company picnic where one bite sent you straight to the emergency room. Your father was beside himself. Actually, when I come to think of it, I'm not all that certain that little girl is you. There's no way that girl is David Clarke's daughter.
Well, we'll know soon enough. I'll have the lab rush this right through.
Of course they had to shut this suspicion down after the show lasted so long. The Graysons had to be in the blue for as long as possible. Or game over for Emily. But it would have been interesting if Victoria had pursued this further. Maybe even uncovered that Fauxmanda was not Amanda Clarke. I know it would not have been far to discover her real name, and that would have led her to Emily. Yet it is interesting that she seems to have a more vivid picture of Amanda in her mind than her actual father, who does not even recognize her in season 4. In season 2 with Fauxmanda's death, her commentary seems to indicate that she still holds a grudge for the girl.
What about Amanda Clarke?
Poor girl. She chose the wrong enemy.
Mocking her even when she is already dead. Victoria's false pity for the poor girl seems very much out of place. And Jack must remind her that they stole not only his wife from him but the mother of his child. Carl is purely an innocent victim of this loss. Victoria seems really not to care for Amanda. After all those years she seems to have her totally blocked out. She only mourns the loss of her beloved David Clarke and spends no thought on the things she did to Amanda. Now we move on to the surely most intriguing relationship of Victoria Grayson with her nemesis Amanda Clarke aka Emily Thorne. From Emily's perspective it is totally natural that she sees Victoria as a threat. But Victoria could have surely reacted differently when Emily became Daniel's new girlfriend. It is strange that she reacts that hostile towards her.
Why are you so interested in this girl anyway?
Because she's interested in my son. Need I remind you what happened with that cocktail waitress Daniel fell for last summer?
Promise you Emily Thorne is no cocktail waitress.
I'm not interested in what she's not. I want to know who she is.
Yes, she did that before with Sarah. And if you are rich, it sure sounds reasonable to be cautious about gold diggers.
What makes you think that she'll give up the Grayson name and everything that comes with it so easily? She's worked so hard for the privilege in just 3 months.
What do you say?
I'm saying that I know the type. I was once just like her, ambitious and driven.
What starts as a normal precaution to make sure her son Daniel is not the prey of an ambitious con artist becomes a real obsession. Even though until the end of season 3 Victoria does not know Emily's true identity, she is most suspicious of this girl. And she cannot sufficiently explain why.
May I ask you, what is it about me that troubles you so much?
Call it maternal instinct.
Okay.
What is this girl up to?
You really don't trust her, do you?
Trust is the one luxury I cannot afford. Clearly, someone has to step in before my son makes another mistake. Don't hurt my son, Emily. You'll live to regret it if you do.
At first it seems harmless what Victoria is trying to do to get Emily out of her and her son's life. In season 1 she does the one thing that over-precautious parents with a vast amount of money and their own security chief would do. Send Frank to spy on her and find anything Victoria could use to destroy her reputation in front of Daniel. I think this was maybe the most realistic side plot around Emily's revengender. How this ex-FBI agent finds out about her biggest secret and connects all the dots.
Where are you, Frank?
I'm on my way back to you. Your suspicions were right all along. Emily Thorne is not who she claims to be.
Lucky for her, Fauxmanda stays loyal and solves this problem for her with the only solution Amanda and Emily learned from prison: violence.
The guy had it out for you. I was protecting you. You didn't have to kill him. There are other ways to handle the situation.
Later, when Tyler's murder and Daniel's trial overshadows everything the Grayson has suffered so far from Emily, she and Victoria declare their first truce and work together for Daniel's sake.
At least one good thing has come out of this. My fiancé and mother have finally found common ground.
And I need to know that you stand by Daniel's side, no matter how rough the road gets. Maybe your time in the juvenile detention facility will end up being an asset in Daniel's court case.
And when Daniel breaks up with her at the end of season 1, it seems as if Victoria has won.
Daniel told me about your breakup.
I can feel your devastation.
You see, even long before the day of your engagement party, I knew that your future with Daniel was as empty as that box.
Season 2 is not only one of the weakest because of the mess with the initiative. They also failed to give us more scenes with Emily and Victoria. Like Nolan and Emily were the beating heart of the show with their siblings like Bond. The hate relationship between Emily and Victoria could be described as the black heart of the show.
Is it possible I wasn't clear when we spoke earlier?
But if it bothers you, Victoria, you can pretend that I left Emily Thorne at the door. To a lovely evening.
At the beginning, both women seem to have lost interest in making each other's life hell, as Daniel said in season 4. Victoria thinks after their breakup that she has won and Emily will finally leave their life. And since Emily is that obsessed with finding her mother dead or alive, Victoria is only a pawn in her mission to get there.
Yeah, but the question is, what did she do with my mother? Abduct her? Or worse?
Only when Emily rekindles her relationship with Daniel, Emily gets back on Victoria's radar by the end of season 2.
I know more than anyone just how susceptible my son can be. I know what a woman in love looks like, and that's not you. Not 1 year ago, and not today. Whatever your reasons for marrying him, you'll never convince me it's for love.
And their last scene in the season 2 finale was as well a threat and a warning as a promise to Emily.
You and I have more in common than either one of us cares to admit. Ferocity, an embedded determination to get whatever we want, no matter what the cost. Do not forget that I have been at this much longer than you. And if you continue to try to tear my children away from me, I promise you that you will not only fail, but you will suffer. And have no doubt, I will show no mercy.
Season 3 and 4 is obviously the most fascinating for these two characters. Cause Emily's plan to take down the Graysons involves bringing Victoria in prison.
Victoria Grayson will be under arrest for my murder.
And under questioning, I guarantee that she'll roll on Conrad in an attempt to save herself.
Let's take down the Graysons once and for all.
It is interesting that all her plotting comes back to Victoria. There are few occasions when she is going after Conrad.
What is that?
In season 1, she mostly tries to gather information and prove her father's innocence, which means also to prove Conrad's guilt. Yet her plotting in season 2 and 3 is mostly targeted at Victoria. For example, trying to take Charlotte away from her.
What now, Revenger?
Let the punishment fit the crime. Victoria took my mother away from me. It's time I took her daughter away from her.
Or at least fuel her hatred for her mother. Then the side plot with Victoria's firstborn son. Emily does everything to stir up old wounds.
Victoria, she has another son.
I imagine you'll exploit this fresh little morsel with your usual flair.
You can't even begin to imagine.
Like when she talks with Victoria about Fauxmanda and her father David after her death. Finally, when she is teasing her with a future far away with Daniel and their children in Paris.
Paris was Daniel's idea, Victoria. Where you'll make a terrific grandmother, Victoria. And we'll put a picture up so that they can see you. I understand why you're on edge, Victoria. Especially here tonight. I can't imagine how difficult it must be for you to spend time in David Clarke's old house. The memories of love and betrayal that must flood in. I'll give you a moment, since you so clearly need one.
And her plan for the wedding is just so focused on Victoria that it is hard to believe it would work. Why should she sell out Conrad if she is that much intimidated and afraid of him? After he confessed to her that he was behind the initiative all along. What makes Emily think that Conrad would not ultimately kill or let his wife killed before she can spill his secret? He had done this before in season 1.
I cannot live these lies anymore, and neither will our children.
Victoria!
What?
If you board that plane, it's gonna be the last thing that you do.
Then I guess I'll see you in hell.
All the wedding preparations seem to be designed to torture Victoria and give Emily the opportunity to revel in her pain. Sure, that was most of the fun by watching the first half of season 3. But besides enjoying how Victoria is digging her own grave and unwillingly contributing to Emily's story for her takedown.
I should have known that your mother would try to use it against me.
Yeah, that's what she does. Well, you took it in stride, though.
Yeah. Guess I'm getting used to it.
When you confessed to Busy Preston about your marriage, you knew that
Victoria would take the bait and spend the next 2 weeks chasing her tail.
And anyone who was there today can testify to how desperate Victoria was to destroy my engagement.
The evidence does keep piling up. This is gonna be one hell of a wedding.
Emily is not one step closer to exonerate her father's name, let alone bring either one of the Graysons in jail. She even spares Daniel, who could have get into jail for his murder attempt on her.
You know, with the leverage the guy's gunplay gave you, it's not like he can just ask for a divorce.
I guess her fixation on Victoria during her preparations for the wedding should show us once more how obsessed Emily is with Victoria. And in season 3 it is again a mutual obsession. 'Cause Victoria does everything in her power to stop this wedding till the last minute.
He's welcome to my spot. I won't be in attendance. Congratulations, Emily.
First by colluding with Aidan, another man who had deceit and betrayed her.
Together we're going to unravel and destroy that little bitch.
Victoria took the bait.
By the way, maybe this is another reason for her hatred and why she wants to see him dead.
You must hate feeling so vulnerable and manipulated, much the way you made me feel after you moved into our house.
Not only to punish Emily but to revenge herself. After she killed Jimmy Brennan, her alleged rapist, she has tasted blood vengeance for the first time and obviously liked it.
Relax, honey.
These two murders showed how dangerous, ruthless and merciless Victoria can be. Remember, she told Emily by the end of season 2 she would show no mercy. It is interesting that both Graysons killed the same amount of people, yet Conrad is the big bad of season 3. Both killed 2 persons on the show. Conrad Lee Moran in season 1 to get Daniel out of jail. Victoria Helen Crawley to protect her son in season 2. And both killed in season 3. Conrad Pascal again to protect his dirty secrets, and Victoria Aidan to take revenge on Emily. I get her motive for killing Aidan. In a sick way, she sees it as some kind of restoring the balance between her and Emily.
Emily ripped away my chance for true love. It's only fair that I do the same for her.
But back to her allies to stop the wedding of the century, as they called it. She finds an ally in her daughter Charlotte and tries to bring Daniel back together with Sarah, the cocktail waitress.
Because I care about Daniel too much to see him marry the wrong woman. And I don't think Emily's the one to make him happy. I'm sure Daniel still has feelings for Sarah, and she still has feelings for him.
So you think that Sarah could be the one who would put a stop to this wedding?
If we weren't so focused on hating Emily, we're more focused on worrying about Daniel, you might see it too.
This shows Victoria's desperation that she turns to one of Daniel's the ex-girlfriends she did not approve to get rid of Emily. And in season 3, Victoria might even be right with what she always said to Emily. Until she learns who Emily really is. Victoria just tries to protect her son Daniel and wants to save him from Emily's bad influence.
Daniel, you have to understand that Emily set you up. For all we know, she put the gun there. She is a monster. I will not allow you to sacrifice yourself for her cruelty.
But when Daniel starts his own war against Emily, her mission to find out why Emily does not leave the Graysons alone turns right back into obsession.
I'm talking about Emily. She's waging psychological warfare on this family. It's a fine strategy.
Well, I appreciate the concern, but I'll dismantle mine my way, limb by limb.
I was testing her, Daniel. Grifters have their price, and Emily couldn't be bought. She's targeting our family and not our fortune. Don't you find it odd that she happened to date Aidan Mathis, whose father planted the bomb on Flight 197, and that she was close with Amanda Clarke, whose childhood home she was living in? There's a connection. I'm going to find out what her plan is.
I must admit that I enjoyed this cat and mouse game at the end of season 3. On first watch, it was really thrilling not to know who would win in the end.
And you will wither away, dying the slow and lonely death that Emily Thorne deserves. If that's even your name.
I mean, Conrad's takedown was very clean and obvious.
Bye, Conrad. Do rotten hell.
After that violent killing of Pascal and all the vile things he said to his daughter Charlotte, he had to go down. But when he was killed off before spilling all the secrets he kept for Victoria, including that she was his accomplice in framing David Clarke, I really thought Victoria might get off the hook, and Emily would fail once more in taking her down.
Seems like you're actually getting what you deserve. Congratulations, Victoria.
Most intriguing was their last confrontation at the cemetery. I guess Emily needed much strength to restrain herself, and Victoria is foolish taunting her this way with Aidan's murder.
You're the murderer here.
You received my gift.
Maybe she thought Emily would not go that far killing her, or she is truly suicidal, cause it seems she is not even a minute afraid.
I should kill you right now and get away with it.
Even though Emily is digging up a grave. Obviously Victoria thought she had derailed Emily enough to go over the edge. believing her father could still be alive.
Well, the truth is that the man that you remember as your father and the man I knew were very different.
Just because you think you know something, it doesn't make it true.
Then why are you here digging up his grave?
That's where you're wrong. I'm not digging up my father's grave.
By the way, this was again a big error between season 3 and 4. If Victoria was sending all these letters to Charlotte, how could the man who was living in the cabin be real and really searching for David? Was that just a coincidence? Anyway, as fitting as Emily's revenge on Victoria was because she had little Amanda locked up in the first place. This is also Emily's most cruel move against her arch-enemy. After her research about Victoria's past and being in a psychiatric clinic as a teenager, she must have known that this was Victoria's biggest nightmare. But I guess she was not only running out of time but out of options for Victoria. Now that she knew Emily's true identity, this was the most elegant way to get rid of this problem and punish Victoria. Being admitted because of a schizophrenic breakdown, no one would believe her that Emily was Amanda Clarke. It speaks for Emily's commitment and control over her feelings that she did not kill Victoria like eye for an eye. Could have been a sick but great symmetry, David killing Conrad and Emily burying Victoria in Fauxmanda's grave that was meant for Emily in the first place. Superficially, this last one looked like her most elegant takedown. But in fact, Emily only postponed their last confrontation until Victoria was either released or broke out of Claremont. I still wonder why she kept it a secret what Emily did to her. 'Cause this was really something that could show her as the victim of Emily's wrongdoings. Maybe she knew in her heart that this was something she deserved or even needed. I mean, she had a bit of a breakdown after she had to see the result of Conrad's horrible murder of her fiancé Pascal.
When I disappeared after Pascal's death, I'd fallen apart and I needed help. I checked into a psychiatric hospital.
That's where you were. All that time. Why didn't you tell me?
I couldn't bear for you to see my life in shambles.
Would have been interesting if Victoria had cooperated in her therapy. Maybe even found the strength and insights to say sorry for what she had done to Amanda and Emily.
I've hurt you, I admit it. But you've hurt me too. I just want to end this cycle, please.
I want my childhood. I want Aiden.
And I want Pascal back. You have earned your pain.
'Cause she hurt that woman to the core in season 3. Her delusions about Emily led her to believe she and not Conrad were responsible for the murder of her fiancé Pascal. And while Conrad would rot in jail, Victoria could only take revenge on Emily. 'Cause he already faced his penance. So she took from Emily the only thing she had left for a happy future after her revenge ender was over. She killed Aiden. Killing her fiancé was not something biblical like an eye for an eye kind of thing. Victoria knew this loss had the potential to destroy Emily. What is worse, that she seems to show no remorse afterwards. Even in season 4 she plays it down and tries to level it with the things Emily had done to her and her family. So there was no learning or growing process on her side. On the contrary, like Emily, she keeps scheming against her arch-enemy. And even in times Emily stays true to their truce. Victoria is secretly helping Margaux with her revenge. So season 4 had to put an end to their war. But also killed off the most intriguing character of the show. After all, this unhealthy psychological war between the two women just could end in 3 possible ways. Victoria was locked away for good in a psychiatric clinic. They both would die in a final confrontation, or like it happened, one of them would die, while the other one was spared. I get that many believe it would have been right or poetic if both had died. And the showrunner himself said that would have been the perfect ending. Surely as a morality tale this ending would have worked best. 'Cause both paid the ultimate price for their bad deeds. Yet this would have been a sour end. And it would have not taken into account that there was a fine line and difference between Emily and the Graysons. She never killed anyone, though she intended to kill Victoria. And like she herself stated multiple times, she did not start this vendetta. The Graysons did, with destroying her and her father's life. I mean, with all the people they destroyed, Conrad and Victoria had to consider that some of them would try to get back at them. For instance, Lydia did in season 1. Which brings us to my vast list of favorite moments and episodes with Victoria. In season 1 I really love the flashbacks, 'cause everyone shows us a different layer of their relationship. First, the betrayal and Victoria's bad conscience and regret.
I had to see you.
You're soaking wet.
I told Conrad I was leaving him. I can't live this way anymore, and I want for us to be together.
Later, her fascination with this sweet and innocent guy. David must have appeared like a total contrast to Conrad.
I was looking for your husband. I didn't want to leave without saying thank you. I was hoping to get home in time to watch the ball drop with my daughter.
Oh, well, that's very important.
It's amazing how much you miss them, isn't it? I got you something.
I love them.
Hey, promise me when you wear them that you think of me.
Always.
Feels like you're a million miles away.
If only. I can't leave Daniel with Conrad.
Well, we'll get back to you, Max.
That's why no one can find out about us, David. I've lived that life before, and I can't live it again.
What about love? Can you live without that?
Conrad doesn't know that I took $5 million out of our account.
Well, he will. It won't be gone by then.
It'll work because he trusts me. Because I know David's deepest secret. The wife he had before we met.
The one who died in 1990.
If you look a little deeper, you'll find there's much more to the story. David told me that his wife was no longer with him, which is technically true. But she isn't dead. He went to go visit her today to ask for a divorce.
So he could marry you, I suppose. And that's even a bigger fool than I thought.
They set me up, Victoria. Someone made it look like I moved money for the people that blew up the plane. But I swear to you, I didn't do this.
David, the evidence tells a completely different story, and even if what you're saying is true, I wouldn't know how to begin to help you.
I really have no one else to turn to.
I'm sorry, David. There's nothing I can do for you. Please don't call me again.
Of course, her fights with Conrad and Emily belong to my favorites in all seasons, and they really kept it down in season 1.
Now, best of luck with your next endeavor.
You'll both be skewered in the media.
No, somehow I think it's my soon-to-be ex-wife who's going to draw the most unflattering spotlight. Here are your options, and they are limited. A, you accept the pittance I'm prepared to offer you in exchange for avoiding a trial. Or B, we take this to court, and it becomes common knowledge that Charlotte is the daughter of the most hated man in America, meaning you had a torrid love affair with a terrorist.
David Clarke was no terrorist, and he was twice the man you ever were.
Well, you're going to have a very hard time convincing the rest of the world of that. So what's it going to be, Victoria? A or B?
Only to increase the numbers in season 2 and 3. And they did really raise the stakes in well-dosed steps. Their talk at the Hollywood Swing and in the finale were my favorites in season 2.
I know what a woman in love looks like, and that's not you.
I understand why you're on edge, Victoria. I can't imagine how difficult it must be for you to spend time in David Clarke's old house. The memories of love and betrayal that must flood in. I'll give you a moment, since you so clearly need one.
You will soon learn that there are limits to what a woman is willing to endure for appearances.
Victoria, I don't make decisions for your children.
You know, there always was something that I could never put my finger on about you. You and I have more in common than either one of us cares to admit.
Tell me.
Ferocity, an embedded determination to get whatever we want, no matter what the cost. Do not forget that I have been at this much longer than you. And if you continue to try to tear my children away from me, I promise you that you will not only fail, but you will suffer. And have no doubt, I will show no mercy.
How sad for you, Victoria, that of your 3 children, the 2 that you decided to acknowledge want nothing to do with you. That's the truth.
Season 3 and 4 really gave us much beloved moments. All the stuff related to the wedding and mocking Victoria on the boat was great.
Welcome, darlings. I hope that everything pleases you. No expense was spared to meet all of your expectations, Emily, and all of your desires, Daniel. I hired Miss Munello to handle today's festivities. It isn't the worst idea to get a taste of what's to come. It breaks my heart that Emily has so few friends and family, especially since moments like these should be shared by loved ones. Finding someone to participate today was no easy feat. He was your husband.
What?
What are you doing, Victoria?
This is a joke, right?
It's not what you think. It was a marriage of convenience. I did it to help Rohan.
Oh, with what?
True love? I was being in danger of deportation, and I had just fallen for someone.
I helped Rohan obtain his green card so that he could stay with his partner, Benny. Hi.
But there's one gift I wouldn't trust anyone to deliver.
What's this?
The Grayson men have had a little pied-à-terre near the Met, and one after another have strutted around thinking that their wives were clueless about their liaisons. But we've always known if we wish to, and we've passed that little card to each new future Mrs. Grayson as a sort of wedding gift.
Well, I appreciate the gesture, Victoria, but Daniel and I are nothing like you and Conrad.
We're more alike than you think. See for yourself.
Hello again, Mrs. Grayson. It seems your son and his lady friend have settled in for the night. Is there anything else I can do for you?
Can we get some more ice, please?
You know, Emily, you surprised me. After learning her fiancé was in the arms of another, most self-respecting women would call things off.
And many wives would leave their husbands, and yet here we are.
I thought I'd bring you a real drink, since I suspect you're about as pregnant as I am. This photo proves that you've been targeting my family and my son for years. Now, who are you?
As of 5 hours ago, I'm Emily Grayson. You know, for once, you're not completely mad, Victoria. Daniel needed a little last-minute incentive, so I stole from the master manipulator.
But you're nothing but a predator. You are as worthless to me as this bracelet. Go on, go after it, before the other bottom feeders beat you to it.
After that incident on the boat, Victoria had to endure a lot. And it was fun to watch how they both tried to stay ahead of each other. This race really kept the second half of season 3 interesting.
Oh, Emily, I'm afraid you'll have to fold. You don't have enough to match the bet.
I think Daniel's engagement ring should be enough to cover it.
You've been bluffing since you set foot in the Hamptons. Why stop now?
Well, maybe I like to try to throw you off your game.
Especially after Victoria got to know the truth and we all wondered what she would do and how Emily would take countermeasures. I think the darker turn revenge took was long overdue. The mutual loss of their fiancés and the sick obsession to make each other's life hell just could not end well for both of them.
Because of the location of the bullet wounds, the surgeries required to save your life, the doctors had no choice. Sacrifice had to be made. I'm afraid you'll never be able to conceive, Emily.
You're lying.
No. Fate can be so cruel. You really did pick the wrong girl to fall in love with. Loyal to the bitter end. It's a beautiful sentiment. And an even better epitaph. Goodbye, Mr. Mathis.
Besides her relationship to Emily, I loved how they fleshed out Victoria's unhealthy and abusive relationship to her children. They all have an unhealthy and cringe take. The takedown of Michelle Banks and the revelation about Charlotte's real father were my favorites for these two.
How's your relationship with your daughter?
Tense. Distant. The truth is, I'd never really felt close to Charlotte. And sometimes I wonder if having a second child was a mistake.
Charlotte, wait. No, I'm done dressing up and pretending to be someone I'm not. You wish I was never born? Makes two of us.
Is that the story you're spinning these days?
Not another word, Conrad. I am warning you.
David Clarke isn't just Amanda's father, he's your biological father as well.
No. Mom.
I will never forgive you for this.
And I'll never forgive you for inviting that bastard into our bed.
And of course the scene in which Charlotte finally breaks free of her mother in the last season.
I'd rather not say, since a large part of me doing this has to do with me getting away from you and your lies.
Charlotte, you know me.
I thought I did, and then I found out you killed Aiden. I'm sick of being caught between you and Emily and your cycle of hate. I want out.
All the things I've done, I have acted out of love to keep our family together, Charlotte.
Family? Look around you, Mother. This family you've been working so hard to keep together, you've done nothing but tear us apart.
With Daniel, I loved season 1 and 3. 'Cause he truly felt the pressure from all sides. Emily pulling him away from his family and pushing him to see how unhealthy the relationship with his mother truly is.
Listen, if you and I are gonna make this work, you can't continue to let her have all of this power over you, or else eventually she's gonna get exactly what she wants.
Which is what?
To separate you from anyone who could threaten to take you away from her. The only way to stop your mother is to forgive her.
Victoria on the other side trying everything to regain control over her son and protecting him from Emily's influence. Their confrontation before the wedding and in season 1 after Victoria sent the police to him and Emily were one of my favorites.
What did she ever do to you?
You must be talking about Emily.
Okay, you don't make these kinds of mistakes, Mom. Why did you have Frank investigate Emily anyway?
Because she came out of nowhere and she set her sights on you. She's been hiding a criminal record, Daniel. You should be thanking me.
Is that what you hope to find?
I didn't hope to find anything.
Stay away from Emily. I love her. I was the last person in this house to defend you, Mom. And now you've lost me too.
Another shot at Emily?
I did nothing of the sort. You are marrying one girl and you're in love with another,
No,
Daniel.
you don't know a damn thing about who I love.
I think I do, and so does Emily, and that's why she trapped you into this pregnancy.
Completely lost your mind, you know that?
Listen to me, she is a con artist.
She is going to be my wife, whether you like it or not.
Daniel, open your eyes! She
Enough.
deceived you from day one!
This time tomorrow, Emily and I will be married. You lost. Okay, it's over.
After Daniel got to know the truth about Emily, I loved how the two worked together to get rid of her.
It was my assumption that Aiden had left town after I kicked him out of the house.
Well, I'm glad he stuck around because I finally have my ticket out of this marriage. You know, that's the first smile I've seen on you in a while.
May I ask you a favor? Please give me a front row seat when you tell her.
We're getting a divorce.
I can't believe this. I forgave Daniel for so much. He shot me.
Let her go. She's trying to goad you.
I want her out.
And of course the two most honest conversations Daniel had with his mother in season 4.
You know, Margaux told me she loved me last night. I wanted to say it back, but I don't even know if I'm capable of feeling anything real anymore. I've closed myself off to it, knowing what you were capable of all those years ago.
You blame me. You think you really know what happened? Well, here it is. Your father's business practices forced me to make a despicable choice. And I sacrificed David and chose you. I will always choose you.
No, this is what you do. This is exactly what I'm talking about. There's always an explanation for how and why you love, because you were terrified to be alone. Look at you now, you're alone. So thanks, Mom. Thanks for being a cautionary tale. One I won't dare let happen to me. We have to stop lying to ourselves. Look at what you're doing to David, because you manipulated him instead. Because surviving is all that matters, just like Dad said. But he was wrong. Now, surviving's not living. It's hiding. We're cowards. I'm done running. I hope you are too.
But the most intriguing storyline regarding Victoria was the one with her teenage pregnancy.
Is the baby's father still in the picture? Would you like to call your parents? I don't live with them. You have a choice ahead of you, one that's going to affect the rest of your life.
It started perfectly with the flashbacks and Emily using the mask ball to torture Victoria. Though Justin Hartley, who portrayed Patrick Osbourne, can hardly be described as a deception. His storyline was not that good. I still have mixed feelings about the plot around his father Jimmy Brennan. How they depicted it and the details in their conversation aroused the impression Victoria is telling the truth. And I feel sorry for her. But does this make it right to take revenge on Jimmy by killing him? And what is with her son? He has to live with the fact that he killed not only just one man but his father. So as thrilling this whole story was, it just leaves a sour taste. And I think they could have found a better ending for this mother-son reunion than making him a murderer and Victoria an accomplice.
You must be the kid that she stole from me. Hey, kid, your dear mom ever mentioned to you how she used me back then? How she took advantage of my help to get what she needed out of life, and how did she thank me? By giving you away.
I was 15 years old and I was looking for someone to trust, and you preyed on that. You raped me.
You knocked on my door that night. We had a drink. We hung out. You said you were feeling adventurous, that you wanted me down in that basement.
Oh, you bastard!
Don't you dare walk away from me.
Get your hands off her!
Oh, God. Call an ambulance.
He pushes my face into the cold concrete and he whispers, "Relax, honey. Relax, honey."
The best moments were surely when Victoria had to suffer through Emily's hands. And she raised the stakes as well. First just reminding Victoria of David and what she did to him.
We all have things in our past that we wish we could change, don't we?
You missing something?
Oh, yeah, my PC. Could have swore I brought it home.
Maybe you left it at the office.
Yeah, maybe.
Can we keep it a secret just a little while longer?
Yeah, just a little bit longer.
Teasing her with Emily's relationship to Daniel. But the best was surely the confrontation at the graveyard and getting her institutionalized like Victoria did all these years before with little Amanda.
From the second I laid eyes on you, I knew something was wrong. And now this is where it all ends. Fitting.
I don't think we've come to the end just yet, Victoria.
After what you've done to the ones I love, you deserve far worse.
I should kill you right now and get away with it. No one would miss you. No one would mourn you. You destroy everyone who gets close.
Like your father? All right, let's play. Amanda, but why?
Don't struggle. It'll only make things worse.
What have you done?
You needed help. I had no choice but to check you in.
Check me in.
Don't worry. Claremont Psychiatric is the best.
You won't get away with this.
Watch me.
I don't belong here. You've been deceived by this woman. She's been running around under a false identity. She's Amanda Clarke.
She's been obsessing over this theory for months. When I found her digging up Amanda's grave, I tried to calm her down, but she attacked me.
She's lying. Don't you dare. Don't you dare! Don't you dare!
Goodbye, Victoria. Get better soon.
She's Amanda Clarke! She's Amanda Clarke! She's Amanda Clarke! She's Amanda Clarke!
Season 4 lived through the final confrontation between the two. But after that strong start with the warning at Emily's doorstep.
Am I right, Amanda?
What do you want?
Arriving here tonight, I think I know how you must have felt when you first returned to the Hamptons. So much hatred in your heart for me and what you thought I'd done.
Which you did.
But instead, you chose revenge. Now it's my turn.
And welcome back.
They kept us waiting long for their final confrontation in the finale.
I will not destroy the memory of his child. You may have that honor, if you truly are that cruel.
You want to talk cruel, Victoria? How about ripping a child away from her father? Or bribing a doctor into poisoning every good memory she ever had of him? That is the truth that you're running from.
Have you ever considered what will happen when you tell him about all your lies, or the death you caused in his name? I wonder what he'll feel. Guilt? Shame? And now you must live with the repercussions of what you've done.
And so will you. I'll make sure of it. You know what I see? It's just a frightened woman about to lose the last person she could ever trick into loving her. To his daughter.
Besides waiting for any bitch off with Emily and Victoria, there was not that much standing out for Victoria. The only thing I really enjoyed was the idea seeing Emily through Victoria's perspective.
In my lifetime, I've come to understand that there are 3 ways for a person to disappear. The first is to die, the second is to lie, and the last is to be reborn. It was after my former husband's death 6 months ago that my transformation began. I made my peace with those who have wronged me and with those who I've wronged. No one more so than Emily Thorne.
I wish they had stick to it instead of giving us just this one episode with her perspective.
She selected my son for sacrifice long before he sacrificed himself. And let's not forget what she did to your father, who died trying to protect us from threats that she made posing as a Homeland Security agent, which is a federal crime. She started this feud. She should have come after just me, and instead she targeted the innocent. Emily Thorne arrived in the Hamptons, a fully formed monster, with a single-minded purpose to systematically destroy me and attack my life by tormenting my son and my daughter, and finally my very sanity.
Victoria, I had no idea what she put you through.
They should have focused on these 2 women from the start. Would have made season 4 much more compelling. Through it was intriguing seeing her downward spiral after she lost Daniel. And totally gave into her delusions and hatred.
You're no victim. Daniel's a victim, Margaux's a victim.
I didn't want this.
Oh, feel free to delude yourself. But one thing I know is that you have the blood of my son and my grandchild on your hands.
Her plan was almost too elaborate and perfect.
Victoria set her plan in motion. She made it look like I attacked her in a parking garage. Made sure there were witnesses who would say as much to the police. She staged her penthouse to look like she was assaulted. And seasoned it liberally with her blood. The rest of which she gave to Mason to plant in my car. She altered her handwriting just enough to make her suicide note look like a good, but not great, forgery. All that was left was the big finish. Making the world believe that I was a bigger monster than she had ever been. A monster who burned the queen alive in the castle she used to own.
Though I still hate the twist about her father, I really loved the last flashback with her mother Marion Harper. Made us understand how Victoria could become like she was. And also made it clear that she had a very unhappy life. In a way, both Emily and Victoria are victims of their life circumstances.
Victoria, I didn't expect you'd show. Well, if I hadn't, you thought yourself the bigger person. Couldn't have that, could we? I changed my name so there'd be no chance you could hurt me again. And imagine my surprise when I saw on television that girl that you forced to do the same thing. I must have inherited my heart from my father. You owe me the truth. Who was he?
Didn't you recognize him, Victoria? That lecherous man that you seduced into your bed.
I died long before you were born. This is just a formality. Are you ready now?
More than you know. Goodbye, Victoria.
What do you think about Victoria? Do you agree that she was the most intriguing character on Revenge? Do you think she really loved David Clarke? What about her fate, her relationship with her sons, normal or just cringe? And how do you see her relationship with her mother?